Now, in Argentina, there's been a recent drive for deregulation of the country's 39 national parks under the populist administration of Javier Milei. The government argues that the change would bring about greater freedom for tourism activity in the country's prized parks. But concerns have been raised about the impacts on protection of the lands in the longer run. Well, in this week's Reporter's Notebook, the journalist Jamie Smith-Maillet has been to visit the country's youngest national park in the north, Iberá, a wetland considered to be a successful model of rewilding.
When people think of Argentina and its wide open spaces, most will think of Patagonia in the south or perhaps the mighty falls of Iguazu in the north. Few will have heard of the Iberá wetlands. I hadn't. And yet it's one of the continent's most significant freshwater reservoirs and at some 13,000 square kilometres, the second greatest wetlands in the world. It lies southeast of Iguazu on a 6-hour-long journey that I drove through the subtropical province of Misiones. The road winds and climbs past forestry plantations and small towns. As it approaches the neighbouring province of Corrientes, it opens up onto horizon-stretching arteries that gradually see lush green vegetation shift to scrub and marsh. It seems like a barren place where speeding trucks throw up dust driving by, but you'd be quickly fooled. The park, through one of its 10 portales, gateways, is a relatively recent haven of fauna and flora and an ornithologist's dream. I entered via a western gate near the small town of San Miguel. I was guided into the park by Rocio and partner Hernan in their 4x4 pickup, needed to tackle the sandy, water-clogged tracks. Sipping from a mate tea she shared with Hernan, she told me how the wetlands had gained national park status in 2018, alongside a deal struck with private land management on its borders. There's little wildlife here, she told me as we passed through a manned pine forest. Pine trees had slices cut into their trunks, bleeding out resin into small bags that was collected and exported for industry. And beyond the sign, Bienvenidos al Parque Nacional de Iberá, we entered another world. We were greeted by capybaras, the oversized rodent who lay stubbornly on the embankment track between the marshes. Their unwillingness to move as the pickup approached reminded me of sheep on farm roads in rural Stirlingshire, where I grew up. With some 4,000 species of flora and fauna and 360 birds, figures spoke positively. The park was home to caiman, often timid, slipping away into the waters after their bask in the winter sun, to grey foxes, and to much more infrequently spotted jaguar. There were some 30, Rocio told me, reintroduced as part of a greater rewilding programme. The lands had previously seen their native animal species reach near extinction after hunting, notably for the previous demands of the fashion industry. Oddly, it was fashion, in some ways, that seems to have breathed life back into the park today. The late Doug Tompkins, former CEO of North Face and founder of the brand Patagonia, bought ranches in the area in the 90s and started a rewilding project. Following his death in 2015, his wife Chris handed the land back to the government with an agreement it would gain national park status. But politics can be fickle. The president, Javier Milei, has plans to allow greater private tourism operators to do business in the country's plethora of national parks. Critics say this would undo decades of work to protect the fragile biodiversity of the parks. Also fickle is the changing climate. The austral summer brings temperatures of over 40 degrees to these parts. In 2022, Rocio started her ecotourism business, and 2 months later, significant wildfires stripped through 10% of the Corrientes province, some 800,000 hectares. Luckily, the rain came, she told me, saving the area that time. Our jeep pulled up at a lagoon and I joined Nicola on a boat which glided out onto the waters. no engine, just a rod to push and pull us through the meter-deep lake. Iberá significa aguas brillantes, means shining waters in indigenous Guarani language, Rosia told me. The lagoon mirrored the sky as a marsh deer nibbled on the leaves of the lake's water lilies, glancing at us curiously. Beyond the strength of rewilding projects, carefully managed ecotourism is part of the solution to ensuring knowledge and the survival of these lands. But a visit here is also a reminder of their fragility, both ecologically and politically.
Jimmy Smith-Maillet there with this week's Reporter's Notebook.